Releasing on the 21st of October 2016, Battlefield 1 quickly became one of EA's most popular games, selling over 15 million copies worldwide. It absolutely thrashed all the other Battlefields, quickly becoming a fan favourite with its precise gunplay, beautiful graphics, and amazing storytelling. To this day, it is still one of the most respected Battlefield games, and is actually doing better for itself than Battlefield 2042. But with EA being such a large company, and being very well known as a very greedy one too, the future of Battlefield 1 is very uncertain. Hence, let's take a deep dive into why Battlefield 1 is a dying masterpiece. War stories are short campaign missions in Battlefield which a player can play through in order to experience what it felt like to be a soldier in a certain time period. And Battlefield 1 is the last Battlefield game to have 5 war stories, having a combined total playthrough time of about 10 hours. For me, war stories were always my favourite part of Battlefield, as they allowed me to truly immerse myself in the game without running around in multiplayer across the field dying to a fucking artillery truck from half across the map. There's something about war stories which just made them feel so much more immersive for me than any other campaign game such as COD or Overwatch. I'm not sure whether it's the voice acting or the scenery or even the cutscenes, but for me, I feel the most immersed in war stories than in any other campaign game. But unlike regular DLCs, war stories only come out at the beginning of the game, and with Battlefield 2042 having none to its name, it is a shame to see such a wonderful creation die out through the generations. Although not necessarily impacting the active player count, these stories still gave Battlefield games a character and a meaning through which we can make memories. Now, the argument could be made that Battlefield 5 also has war stories, with some being better than others, but in my opinion, Battlefield 1's war stories are a lot more balanced, and therefore, this gives it the slight better edge in terms of storytelling. I do hope that for the future Battlefield projects, EA reconsiders this decision and finally allows us to replay more of those memories who could have potentially been forgotten. In my opinion, another thing that really makes Battlefield 1 so great is the music scores that are behind each and every single map there is in the game. It's often difficult to say that a game has good backing music, but for me, Battlefield 1 is up there with games like Subnautica, Sea of Thieves, and The Walking Dead for the soundtracks behind the gameplay. Whether you're fighting the revolution near the Volga River or walking through the scorching heat of the Sinai Desert, the game will always have a good soundtrack to back your every move. However, it does go without saying that after getting absolutely fucked by a dreadnought on the Foul Fortress map, hearing this whistle is not the best sound. And yet it's still a fucking masterpiece. Ignoring the dreadnought, all the soundtracks in this game are still awesome, and they just help to elevate that experience to a whole new level, making you even more immersed and making Battlefield 1 just that much better. And while we're on the topic of music, I also want to mention the voice acting like I did earlier, because it is so good in Battlefield 1. I'm almost inclined to say that it's so good that you can feel the emotions of the soldier you're controlling when you're in combat. Whether you hear the battle cry of the enemy team after they capture an objective, or you can feel the fear of your own character when reviving somebody, this game just becomes so much more immersive. Now, I was going to go glaze the sound effects as well, but I think that's just a little bit too much, so let's move on to the next category. Now, what I mean by gunplay isn't the historical accuracy of it, or whether the guns at the time were the same as the ones provided in the game. What I mean is how easy it is to play Battlefield 1 in contrast to all the other ones. I can safely say that I am a casual Battlefield player, and I don't know any of the special techs or any of the metas that are going on in the game, so I am going to be judging this from a casual's perspective. When I first got into Battlefield, I was absolutely shocking at the game, and I still am, but I still think that Battlefield is actually pretty good for for new players relatively to other games. Most Battlefield games are very easy structurally and mechanically, with them just being point and shoot, and the objectives being go there, capture that, steal that. It's pretty self-explanatory. The only reason why I say most is because of this fucker. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Battlefield 2042. I get it, the future is cool, the futuristic guns, the futuristic jets, but just go either play War Thunder or COD Advanced Warfare. Don't bring it to Battlefield. Seeing a fucker jump out of a plane on a jetpack and then come flying into yours to nick it is not the ideal Battlefield experience I was hoping for. But anyway, enough hate on Battlefield 2042, it's not that bad of a game. From a gameplay perspective, most Battlefield games are pretty new player friendly, which is what I really like about it. You just kind of jump in, run around a little bit, die a little bit. It's a nice experience. This is in contrast to other EA games where you have a fucking robot ninja triple super gliding above you and then proceeding to hit the griddy on you. I don't know about you, but I definitely prefer the first one. I also like that in Battlefield you can just play at your own pace. It can be a very slow game where you sit with a sniper inside a bush, or you could be running across no man's land with a shotgun. It gives you a lot of options to explore. And I'm not even necessarily talking just about Battlefield 1, this can be also said for Battlefield 5 and most other Battlefields. Hence why this line of games is very memorable and just nice to play when you have nothing better to do. Having talked about the gunplay and the gameplay itself, let's move on to the final topic. It's hard to judge whether Battlefield 1 is an old or a new game, however, what can be said for certain is the fact that it left a true staple in the FPS industry. Battlefield 1 has an extremely loyal community, being able to outlast both its predecessors and successors. Being nearly 8 years old, its graphics still hold up as one of the best out there, comparing to that of Escape from Tarkov, and its replayability is surprisingly very good too. Battlefield 1 is the perfect blend of all Battlefields. It's got nice and fun gameplay which has got very little cheaters in it, it's got good storylines, good music, and a very loyal fan base, and as well as that, it's accessible, even up until the Xbox 360. I could say so many positive things about Battlefield 1 that this video would just be too long, but of course, with all positivity, there is always a different side. Approaching its decade-age mark, Battlefield 1 will soon become less and less of a priority for EA to continue working upon it. With how quickly they ended their support for Battlefield 2042, it won't be long before our beloved Battlefield 1 will also suffer the exact same fate. EA are not a particularly good company when it comes to making decisions, which can be seen with their actions in Apex Legends and Titanfall, in particular Titanfall, as this is a game that has been kept alive by only its community. Despite EA denying the recent rumours in 2023 about the closure of Battlefield servers, their recent actions certainly do not speak for themselves. With an official statement confirming that they will be shutting down Battlefield 1 servers on the Xbox 360 and PS3, one could only wonder when the newer gen consoles will catch up. This is understandable from a financial perspective, as a company needs to make profit, and new games are usually the best way for a company to make profit. But if and when that time does come, Battlefield 1 will go out as being one of the best FPS games to have ever graced the gaming industry. Whether it's the first time you managed to get a plane off spawn, or the first time you got a kill with your airburst mortar, this game will be remembered for the fun that we had in it. My only hope is that EA learn from the mistakes that they made with 2042 and make sure that the next Battlefield games are just as good as the ones previously to it. And with all that being said, thank you for watching the video, and one can only hope that Battlefield 1 does not suffer the same fate as Titanfall.